Hey humans! Marz here. My pronouns are they, them, in case you're new. And I'm here for the October's question of the month. I am a lifetime survivor, someone who was born with HIV. So, what does it mean to be an HIV community, and how have you been shown by someone or shown up yourself that proves HIV community is real? So I'm going to break this up in parts because it's like a 3-part question. And I'm going to try to be quick because I have a lot to say. So what does it mean to be an HIV community? I think is about us showing each other support, compassion, empathy, and whether you have an HIV status and or maybe are someone who was affected by it, a family member, a person who works in the field, things like that. I think that's the first layer of HIV community specifically. And I say layers, so let's go deeper. If we pull back just the HIV community layer, where it's everyone affected by HIV, then we get into long-term survivors and lifetime survivors. Those who were diagnosed in the 80s and 90s, who are about over 50 at this point, and or the lifetime survivors, who are the ones who were born with HIV, such as myself, and or acquired it before the age of 5, in early childhood, as we say. So here in this layer, we understand each other, all of us just having HIV. That alone is some solidarity that is priceless. And I didn't get to experience that until 8 years ago. And I moved here in 2011, and it wasn't until 8 years later that I found my community here in New York. So it really is a rare opportunity to meet a bunch of people that are HIV positive and just kind of understand all the things that I've gone through. And yeah, so how have you been shown by someone? I'm going to stop there for the question. So how have I been shown? Back 8 years ago, some of the first people that I met were Dawn and Dana. And then some people, they're on the campaign. Some people who are not. Dan, John, Eric, Leanna. So there's definitely a bunch of people that I had the opportunity of meeting that unfortunately are no longer here today. And so when I think about someone showing me what community is, I think of those people because when I joined the Consumer Advisory Committee for the AIDS Institute, which is where I first met them, they welcomed me with open arms. I had no real idea what I was doing at this place yet, but I knew who I was meeting up with. I was meeting up with Dawn and John, and they were going to make sure I ate and had dinner and, got into my room safely, all the things. And it just instantly felt like I was a part of a family. And that's grown a lot over the last 8 years, for sure. So then let's take it back a little bit further, deeper in talking about lifetime survivors and when lifetime survivors get together. HIV is already a solidarity, but then knowing that you're with a group of people who actually experienced this in childhood, who went through all the things like trying to navigate schools and medication and being too young to really communicate your feelings and your side effects. Spending all this time in hospitals instead of, playing or having a normal childhood, as we would say. I think when we get together, it's like we're like a blooming onion and we get straight to the core, and it is very real. We share our stories with each other, and there's just, I've never felt so seen or so heard, just through their experiences. I've never felt so much relativity, and that alone, being a part of these HIV communities, the Consumer Advisory Committee, the HIV Stops With Me campaign, when I first moved here, I found the Albany Damien Center. And I literally walked into a living room and, I became a member. And I, really tried to start to get involved and started and just be around other HIV positive people. And it was such a welcoming space. So, I think community builds, but really it's about supporting each other. And how have I shown up myself? I go to a lot of different conferences. I show up for a lot of panels, discussions, and things like that. And um, more and more over the past couple of years, lifetime survivors, dandelions have been brought up. And it's beautiful to see, because for so many years it was just me, Leanna, Eric. It was just a group of us, Adrian, a small group of us who were trying to navigate what advocacy looked like for ourselves while still working through the trauma and the problems that caused those things, those needs that weren't being met, and we still were learning how to communicate, how to meet them. I was brought in to help understand what those needs were so that I could bring it to the wider group so that we could make action on things. And since then, we've done a lot for lifetime survivors, not to mention long-term survivors who are advocates and allies and are making sure that we are mentioned, included in statistics, included in examples, things like that. So one of the things that I would like to talk about is a Surviving Voices series. It is a series of videos. It's a documentary. I was honored to see that lifetime survivors were included. I was one of them, and it was just beautiful to see how the long-term survivors and lifetime survivors, the similarities were, it was so smooth the way that the narrative went between us, it weaved and wove. But then when we started talking about the specific needs of lifetime survivors, that also held space, that also had time. And I think this past year I've felt more seen and heard and valued and understood than ever before. And that feeling, honestly, is completely priceless. So I think community, HIV community, is priceless. That's my take on this month's question. I have so much more that I want to say, but I have to keep it short. So here we go. Be safe, everybody.